Well, thank you all for attending the June webinar. Let's see, this is going to be recorded for any grantees that are unable to miss. I have a couple that had emailed me last minute saying something's came up. And so this is for anyone that has missed it, or if you have any staff that you think the information would be, good for them to know, definitely just send it to them. As always, I will upload these into YouTube and then send you all PowerPoint and the link to the webinar. That would be uploaded on YouTube. And so we'll go ahead and start. I see many of you are already putting in um, your name and the organization in which you're from. Can you all see my screen? Thumbs up if you do. Great. So thank you all for attending the June webinar. I cannot believe we are, this is the last month of this program year. Like, woohoo! Like, I cannot believe we're here. Who would have thought that we would be here? I remember when we first started. I remember when, it was October and we finally have funding. I remember, just all these check-in meetings and everything that has happened during this whole time. And I'm just so happy to see that, we have 1 year in under our belt. As we have been very transparent with you all, there has been lots of success, lots of growing pains, but also lots of flexibility from your end, and we try on our end as much as we can as well. Thank you for all the feedback we've received so far. We've made changes here and there, and just know that it's always welcomed. Adina and I are always welcoming it, and so as we try to strengthen our systems within the equity fund, your lens and your perspectives are very important. And so I just can't believe you have a year under our belt. I'm very excited. And I know from our check-ins, everyone's kind of winding down this program year, but as we all have said in the check-in meetings, summertime is actually the busiest time, and for many. And so that's going to go underway for everyone, the majority of you all that I've checked in with. And so excited to hear about all the summer activities that's going to happen, especially outdoors. And so to move on, um, let's see, here's the agenda for today. We're going to start with the evaluation with PSU, updates, information you all know or may know that's coming your way. And then I'll go with announcements, kind of updates, really, announcement updates on the continuation applications, summer programming, insurance status, equity deliverables training. And then Adina will go over some changes for next year, and then and with reminders. And so it could be a short meeting, a short webinar, it could be a long one, depends on the conversation that we have. And so we'll go from there. And so roll call, as always, I already see many of you doing it. Please put your name and which organization you're from. We'd like to know who's here and who's not. I make sure and double check to make sure that you all are the ones that missed are able to get this information. Okay. And then, so on the agenda, we're going to start with PSU. Okay. And so, Beth, let's see, I'm going to stop sharing screen and to see if you are unable to share your screen. Okay. Let me know if you are unable to.
Oh, it looks like it worked.
Awesome.
Let's see. Can everybody see the slide that says June evaluation updates? Yay, okay. Hello, everyone. I'm Beth, and it's great to be here today, and also like in disbelief that it's June already. I'm glad to have this time to share some of the updates of the work that's been happening. We've been really enjoying conversations and time that we've been able to have with you all over the last month or two as we work towards a final push for us to get some drafted deliverables to the early learning division, as well as getting input and offering opportunities as we're moving forward for you all to see the things that we're coming up with and reflect back to with us the information that you shared. So I want to update you where we are and sort of give you let you know where we're going. Between now and the end of June, but even more so now in the end of August, when we have our first major deliverable due to the early learning division. So I'm just going to walk us through so that everyone can kind of know what's going on in the evaluation world and be on the lookout for various opportunities and requests for us as we move forward. So first of all, just staffing updates. We've welcomed the 2 new folks to our team. I know a lot of you had a chance to meet Amber and Alexis, who are here with us today. But I also wanted to share our sad news, which is that Amanda Crosshammer won't be returning to the team at this point. She is taking some personal time and reflecting on where she wants to go next. She's worked with me for a long time, over 10 years, and so we're
nice. Okay.
I'm very sad to see her go, but wish her the best. I know you all do as well. And she wanted me to say goodbye to you all on her behalf today. So in terms of evaluation, we have our first major report due to the Early Learning Division at the end of August, because my understanding is that they have very important meetings with the legislation education committees happening in September and want to be able to share back with that committee some of the successes and learnings from this year of implementation. Our report is going to have 3 components. First of all, an evaluation plan, which is really just our approach to this work. And really we've been working and talking with the evaluation advisory, equity fund advisory group on developing an evaluation framework that's based on a model of equitable evaluation. So really trying to drive and push the boundaries around what might be a more traditional approach to evaluation, so that we can have an evaluation approach that really is equity driven and focused on partnering with you all as the grantees, as the most knowledgeable partners around the kinds of information we should be elevating, the kinds of stories that need to be shared, and the kinds of successes that you're hoping for. So we're working right now with the evaluation committee on that. And I'll tell you a little bit more about where we are specifically in a minute. We're also gathering information from each of you based primarily on data you've been collecting to really describe what's happened in terms of implementing the projects this year, what have been the big successes, what have been the big challenges. I mean, obviously everyone has been experiencing pivots and changes because of COVID, but also just some tremendous successes there. So that'll be a major chunk of that final evaluation report. And then the other thing that we've been doing, and again, thank you for having conversations with us about this, but part of our required deliverable is to identify and look at sort of what are the current data collection requirements that the Early Learning Division has. Where are the grantees in terms of their systems for collecting both that required data, as well as potentially other data that is useful and important for you in the work that you're doing. And then to formulate that into some ideas and strategies for providing some assistance where needed and wanted around either collecting data, storing data, using information in a variety of ways. So help working with you to strengthen data collection capacity during the upcoming years. Okay. So part of what we've been doing and what we want to have in place over the next relatively short period of time and throughout is a process of having us doing work to gather and compile information, develop some documents and drafts that then we would seek feedback from, both from the evaluation stakeholder group, as well as from our Early Learning Division partners, as well as from the broader grantee group. So we have, I think, 11 organizations, and you know who you are, who have been participating and working with us on the stakeholder group. So we have different kinds of requests and asks for the folks on the stakeholder group, as well as from opportunities for all of you to see what we're developing and what we're writing and review that and provide input. And then we hope to compile that information and feed it back as we work towards those final deliverables. So for part one, the evaluation framework, the key research questions, and our sort of plan for moving the work forward next year. As I said, we're currently revising our framework based on feedback that we received from most of the members of the stakeholder group. I think there's a couple that are still scheduled for this week. So we'll be finalizing that and getting a second draft out. And this time we do intend to send the draft framework with the research questions and our draft plan out to all of you. And then engage in sort of a month-long process of feedback opportunities. And I'll talk about those at the end in terms of what you think is going to work best for you in terms of having an opportunity to look at that framework, give us feedback, and then hopefully for our process for then taking in that feedback and making revisions before we submit a final document. We will then work to incorporate that feedback and get a third draft out to primarily our stakeholder group and our ELD partners. And that's primarily because of the time frame. So we're giving a month for broader feedback from everyone. And then we have a relatively tight framework at the end where we're hoping to work with our ECF stakeholder group and the early learning division to finalize that. With then the goal of having that report to the ELD by the end of August. In terms of the other two pieces, so the grantee data capacity training in TA and the implementation evaluation, which actually I think I switched those. I think it was parts 3 and 2, but we have the same process where we're currently in the data compilation and information gathering stage. We've been doing the one-on-one interviews with each of you around the data capacity. We've also been pulling information from all of the grantee reports submitted and from updates and information shared that you've shared with the ELD. And there's been a ton of rich data there. So basically we're treating that as qualitative data as well as the quantitative data in terms of numbers served and other records that you provide for the ELD. We're doing a coding process that's really focused on identifying strengths, especially around highlighting things that I think help us shine a lens on why these equity fund grants are so important, and having a culturally specific strategies and organizations doing this work is so important for families. So identifying those strategies that really strengthen and are based in your strengths in working with families, as well as any challenges that you've experienced along the way and where you might have wanted or needed more support, either from the ELD in terms of their infrastructure and strategies, or from the evaluation team, as well as any other successes and challenges and lessons learned. So we're in that data coding and compiling process, and that's been really interesting and fun for us to dig deep into learning all of the great things that you're doing there. So our goal with that is to have both of these components of the report drafted and out again for almost a month long. We want to get that, it's going to be a longer document, and we need to get it translated so that we can offer at least English and Spanish versions to you for review. Again, we'll probably be getting feedback in similar ways over the month of July, and then incorporating that into a second draft that we would then submit as that final report with all 3 pieces to the early learning division, the stakeholder group for feedback, having about a week of feedback time, which we realize is really tight. And so we'll talk with the stakeholder group about what's feasible in terms of that process. And then the final report due to the early learning division at the end of August. So I guess I'll pause there and say, are there any questions or comments about how we intend to move forward with the report that we're developing in the 3 different parts? Okay, I'm going to take silence as a no, and just move to, we were hoping to get some feedback from you all today around your preferred methods to provide feedback and input on these draft documents. From our equity fund evaluation stakeholder group, our plan is to reach out in a variety of ways. We are going to be sending out a communication, I believe later today, around scheduling a meeting that we can possibly in person, but that's up to people's preferences, but a longer meeting probably towards the end of July to really get facilitated feedback amongst our larger group, but then having other opportunities for us to check in with you one-on-one, similar to what we've done over the past month to get more individualized feedback to the extent that you have capacity to do that and work with us in that way. But then everyone, of course, will have other opportunities. And one thing that we heard from our evaluation stakeholder group was, and we know this from our past experiences, is that no one way works for everybody. So we want to try to provide multiple different ways that people might provide feedback. And so some of the ideas that we came up with were sending a draft of the report to each of you to provide your feedback via either email or through comments in a document. We also can post the documents to our Google Drive and share that with you all for sort of collective input. We can also schedule individual meetings with you if that's something that you're more comfortable with, giving that feedback verbally, either through a Zoom call or a phone call. And then we want to provide a way to get anonymous feedback. And so one way we thought to do that was that we could send out like an e-survey, like a Survey Monkey, and we can set that up so it will provide anonymous feedback to us around with just maybe a few key reflective questions for you to answer or think about in terms of the documents. So we were interested, first of all, there may be other ways that people would suggest and they would like to see in terms of how we might get feedback. But we're curious and we thought maybe you could put in the chat, like, which of these would work best for you? Like, which would be the easiest way for you to feel comfortable giving us feedback on any of the documents that we've described? And if folks would just take a minute and put those in the chat, I'd love to see kind of, we can do all of these things or none of these things. And we'd really like to hear if you have other ideas as well. Smaller meetings with stakeholder group, great. Draft posted via Google Doc. Anybody else have thoughts of, oh, there we go. Survey. All right. All right, lots of interest in individual meetings, but also some folks being like, no, just put it on Google and let me comment, which is absolutely fine. Survey Monkey, okay, so it sounds like a little bit of everything is what I'm seeing. And you can feel free to, if any other ideas come to you, feel free to put them in the chat because we'll be reviewing that after the call. All right. Any other questions about that process? Anyone from the research team, any other comments or questions about that or anything you want to add to what I've shared?
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, hi, Lauren.
Hi. So this, I'm sure that this was covered way back when we were introduced to PSU and your evaluation team and all of that, but I need a refresher on pretty much what I'm thinking. From my position, we have various state grants, but this is the only one that's going through this PSU evaluation. So I'm curious as to the the purpose of it. I'm wondering, like, kind of curious why it's not happening with our other state grants and out of different offices, and if the purpose of it is to like continue to mold and shape the grant program and who it's serving, or is it to like find holes in the program and make sure that it's like serving all of the constituents it needs to be? Or if you could more just speak on like kind of how it came about and why it's specific to early childhood.
Yeah,
I can add from the statues point too when you are done, if you want to.
Yeah, thanks, Adina. Well, that was my first response. Is it is part of the statute and legislation that there is an evaluation of the Early Childhood Equity Fund grant stream. So that's why there's an external evaluation for this, and that exists for some other state-funded programs, but not all, as you noticed. In terms of the legislative requirements for evaluation, basically the language focuses on being able to describe the culturally specific methods that are being used by programs, the extent to which programs are serving the families that they intended to serve in terms of the equity fund and meet the equity fund sort of guidance for who is prioritized for service. And then there's some very generally sort of we think, pretty vague language around being able to show the benefits in terms of child positive indicators and family positive indicators. And that's where we've sort of taken that language and gone through a process with our early learning division partners first to do a reality check around the evaluation, but really trying to use this as an opportunity through evaluation to push the envelope in terms of what people might think about in terms of positive outcomes and indicators for families, recognizing that historically, a lot of the indicators that our system has used traditionally are very informed by sort of white dominant thinking, and a lot of the measures have bias in them, and they don't do a good job reflecting the assets and the strengths of families and communities of color. And so we're really trying to work with the evaluation advisory group on a process to kind of co-create what the evaluation will look like. But the goal is to be able to document those four things. That's the explicit stated goal. My internal bias is always that I want evaluation to be useful, not just as a checkoff on like a legislative requirement, check we did the evaluation, but have it also generate information that's useful to the folks who are doing the program. So that's another goal we have, is to make that information useful for you all, whether that's for policy advocacy purposes or for improving your program or for other uses. So that question of how will the data be used was actually something that came up in our conversations with the stakeholders. And we're really trying to carefully think through like what are the intended or possible uses of data. So does that answer your question?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I really appreciate that. Yes. Thank you very much. And I just wanted to say that we had our evaluation with Alexis, and he was just wonderful. I thought he did such a great job. So I want to tell you that as a supervisor. Yeah.
I think he's on the call, so he might have just heard you.
Oh, good. Good. I'm glad.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for that feedback.
And just to add to Beth too, when it comes to report to legislative body, this is the first time that we are doing the Student Success Act grants, and the only funding stream that supports equity, culturally specific programs and organizations. So we started with 10 million a year. We are hoping that the impact that this fund has had for the past year will change minds and give us more funding moving forward.
Yeah, great. Thank you for that, Adina. Other questions? Or we have one more ask of you, so I'll move to the last slide, which is, whoops, if it will let me, come on, let's go, there we go. We'd love to have our final report reflect actual pictures of families who are being served through your programs. So if you have any photos that you've taken and you have permission from families to share those with us, we would love to have them. So this is just an open-ended request. If you have pictures that you're willing and able to share with us to include in the report, you could either send them to us via email, and all of you should have someone on the research team that you're connected with, or just put your name in the chat right now and we'll follow up with you. So we'd love to be able to actually show some real families who have benefited from connecting with your resources. All right, and I think that's all. Any research team, anything I missed or you want to add? Good. All right, so you'll be hearing from us, obviously, probably more than you want, but consider every request optional, and we invite and welcome your participation as we move forward. And I will end my share now.
Thank you, Beth. For all your work. I do know, I love, having the PSU team in the check-ins and just, getting to build that relationship and trust. And so I love the intentionality behind PSU and every step of the way so far. And so thank you for that. Let's see, let me go back to sharing my screen. And then we'll continue. So let's see if I can move this. There you go. Early Childhood Equity Fund data. And so this is the latest data as of May 25th. Caveat is there's some that has not submitted reports. And so this is not reflective of all the services that has been given. But as you can tell, the goal is 2,500 children, and we've surpassed that. These are the new data, the new number. And so I wanted to share that with you all. I know it's really important. I remember when I was a grantee of a program and before I came to the ELD, and I wanted to see the numbers, and I'm a number person. And so being able to see the numbers and the percentages and who's being served and what is very important. And so I wanted to share this information with you. And so excellent job, everyone. So some reminders. Insurance. Emails were sent out. So if you have received an email from ECEF about your insurance, then that means there is something missing, or certain amounts were not approved, or didn't meet the requirement. And so if you did not receive an email about insurance, then your insurance is completely fine and met all the requirements. But then if you have, just know that it is really important that you send us the updated information that's needed, that has been requested of you. In the email, I see that it states exactly which area needs updated amounts and things like that, or which area is missing. And so please work with your insurance agent and to get that information, get it to us ASAP, especially with summer funding. The summer program funding. The summer program funding has a requirement that you must have a submitted insurance document of what is missing by this Friday. And so the intent to award went out yesterday for the ones that have insurance that have submitted the insurance that were requested of them, or were approved of the insurance. If you had submitted a continuation, a summer programming application, and you did not receive an intent to award, that means your application is currently on pause right now until we receive your insurance information. And so key thing is the deadline is this Friday. We must receive it by end of business day Friday to consider for summer funding, just that because of time frame and everything. And so there's that. And then if you did not apply for summer program funds for the continuation application, if you had received an email, your deadline is by June 30th, the end of this program year, to have insurance. This next program year, everyone needs to be insured, ready to go from the beginning. And so it is imperative that the ELD has that information. And so please make note of the deadline, the dates. It's a hard stop, and so there's no flexibility behind it. And so, like I said, if you had applied for summer programming and you did not receive an intent to award notice yesterday, that means there's something with your insurance. And so you would have got an email. And if you didn't, connect with me after the webinar, okay? And then we can set up a meeting to connect with you. Other than that, intent to award was sent out yesterday. The grantee list, like I said, is insurance. The standing has been submitted. And so there's that information that came out. And then the continuation application, the intent to award notification will come out this Friday. And so just know that with the intent to award for the continuation application, that is your insurance affects that, like what I keep saying. And so it is imperative that you have that information, that those documents into us in order to continue funding. Okay. And so for the continuation application, deadline is June 30th. So make sure you send that information to me. You're not submitting it in a report, you're submitting it to me. And I would then submit it to the staff, the program staff that is overseeing the insurance reports that procurement is taking a look at. And so we have a couple of grantees that we still need insurance information from. And then as how I've been checking with you all about the equity training, the deadline is June 30th. I'm looking on the list to see if grantees has gone in and submitted to say that they've completed the equity training or not. Please send me the list of staff that has watched the training or has participated in equity training. I need that information by June 30th. I have received that for multiple grantees, but not all yet. And so I will send that link out again for the report for you to go on in and say, hey, this is Kimberly from the ELD. We have watched the ELD training, and then please send me the list of staff that has watched it or attended an equity training that you have attended in the past on the date and name of training and who attended. And so just an FYI, it's any staff that is funded through the equity fund that needs to, 1, attend an equity training, or 2, watch the ELD training. And so please make sure you send me that information by June 30th, okay? And so that is closely being monitored. And so like I said, I will send the link out when I send the PDF of the PowerPoint here and the link to the webinar that's being recorded right now. And so I'll do that, okay? And so any questions before we go to the next slide?
Yes, I do. This is Lupe from LatNet. So just to confirm, you said that if we did get a notice that we're missing something from our insurance, that once we get it, we send it to you by Friday, this Friday.
This Friday, if it's summer programming. I mean, the sooner the better. Continuation application is June 30th.
Okay. Good, because that's the clarification. And then all staff that are working in in programming that is funded by ECEF has to take the equity training by June 30th. Okay, thanks. I just wanted to reconfirm this. I'm on this off of my phone, so and I got a call that interrupted. So
no worries, no worries. Yep, that you're correct.
Thank you.
Adina, please chime in if you see anything in the chat box. I can't see the chat box, and so
Yeah, I'm doing that right now.
Thank you so much. And then I'm going to move on to the next slide, and that's Adina.
Oh, okay. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about upcoming changes. The first thing is end of year report. So after June 15th, I will give a couple of days for you to submit your monthly performance reports. And then when you access that for July 15 report, there will be some questions that are different than previous months. We will ask end of year questions, the impact of equity fund. It's going to be heavy on narratives because we already have all your demographic and service numbers. So just if you open the report, it's going to be on the same link and there's something different. Don't be scared. We added it there. For the next year, there are a couple of changes that you will notice on the grant agreements. and we are updating our grant manual. It's going to be published. We will email it to you, and it's going to be posted on our dashboard on Smartsheet. Please read it. We expanded allowable, disallowable cost list. We changed the budget revisions requirement, and also on reporting. We will continue with monthly performance reports where you submit your numbers. Demographic sheet might look a little bit different, but we will still collect that data. On the major change is expenditure report. We are moving to reimbursement base only monthly. And that means that you will have to submit your expenditure report in Smartsheet and place the claim in EGMS. When we review that, and it's going to be 5-day tops review time, we will approve your claims in EGMS, but we will have to receive both of them. This 3 months ahead of time schedule was not working for everybody. There was a lot of confusion and different amounts expended versus claimed, and we feel that this will, fix that. It's going to create a little extra work on the front end, but you will always know your budget expenditure levels moving forward. And again, we will provide all those reports and calendars and schedules. Last year, after the grant agreement were executed, we asked you to submit your budget templates. This year, we asked that in your grant continuation application. You will still be able to move, amounts from line item to line item. If you, after we publish notice to award, if you were funded fully what you requested, you will not be required to submit your budget template. We will just use what is in your application. If you got funded less than what you requested, then we will need you to submit a revised budget template showing awarded amount through personnel and non-personnel costs. The additional thing that Kimberly is adding this year is going to be service delivery calendar. We asked you in the application, what is your start date for your services? If you are doing multiple activities, parent-child interaction, parenting, education, and kindergarten transition, we're going to go a little bit detailed in that. The template will be provided to you the moment you get executed grant agreement, and then it's going to be 30 days for you to submit it. Again, you will be able to change it throughout the year, but it's going to help us keep on track with all our grantees. And that's, I think, all I have. Kimberly, did I miss something? So Kimberly, does anybody have any questions or?
Sorry, I was trying
Report due.
to unmute button, but
Go
no,
ahead.
I think you covered it. Like I said, these service delivery calendars is for us. It's basically your goals for the month, and so it's ways in which we, as the ELD, can help support you through the process. And so some will say, well, Kimberly, it's going to look the same for every month. That's totally fine. Things will change. We'll have different goals. And so that's something that I will work closely with you this next coming year. And so that's going to be the one change for sure.
I see a question from Lauren. When will the final report be due? So the performance reports are due on 15th of each month for preceding month. So 15th of July for all services provided in June. And then expenditure report needs to be submitted by 14th of August, because that is the last time you will be able to claim funds for this current year in EGMS. Some of you have been getting, I think all of you should be getting reminders from EGMS team, like generated emails saying, just pointing out that date. I'm going to create a banner on our dashboard that reminds you of like last claim date, but that is the final day for expenditure reports and claims.
I have a question on the month the year-end report. Is it the same as our month-end report? It's just you're gonna have extra questions, but it's the same exact report.
Yep,
Mhm.
yes, ma'am.
Okay.
We will just add some questions. We already have, we will still have, how many children you served for month of June. And then we will add some narrative questions just to get kind of like closing full pictures of the impact that this grant had on each our organizations.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I want to chime in on that. The end of the year report, like all of the programs, the ELD, Preschool Promise, OPK, they all have a very intense end of the year report. And it is required for us to be able to have some data. What we found out is as we combed through their end of the year reports, we already have all of the data for the demographics and everything. And so we realized we have a lot of the information, but what we're missing is the qualitative data, the narratives of your experiences and what worked, what didn't work, what did the equity fund actually do, the impacts they actually made. And so it would be narrative questions that would be added onto that monthly report. And so it's like what Adina said, for the month of May, please go in and put it in time because she's going to change it and have it ready for July. And so please make sure that you're going submitting it on time.
Ali. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Get this to us when you can, but we are just being really sensitive to summer breaks, and now that people can actually maybe do some summer vacations, getting people to do them. So I was just wondering, when will we know what those additional questions are for the narrative? For the final monthly performance report, so we can just start preparing for that.
What I can do is I can post it on our dashboard and then send you guys a link, and it's just going to be like listed, like these are the questions that will be part of your report, but it's not going to be added to report until after we receive all monthly report on 15th of June for
This month. That would be wonderful. Thank you
I
for
can
that.
do that for sure.
Perfect.
Yeah, because we have the questions ready to go and stuff, so that will give you some information.
Excellent. Thank you.
Awesome.
I'm on mute. Okay, so just to recap, some quick reminders. The May monthly report is due June 15th, so next Tuesday. For any of the grantees that has not submitted a report from previous months, please go in and submit them. We have a couple that have still not submitted monthly reports from January and February, and so those numbers are really critical. It's really critical for us to understand what you were doing that month in your narrative with the children and families, the programs you were serving. So please go in and submit those. And then, as always, please turn in your expenditure reports, any remaining monthly reports, and insurance reports. I cannot stress the importance of the insurance report. Those deadlines are a hard stop. And so please make sure you have those in time for the continuation of funding and for summer grants. And also please complete the equity training. And so it looks like that's all for today's webinar. And so, like I said, I knew it'd be a little shorter one. So 15 more minutes back for you all. And so that'll be all for today. And so as always, I will send you all this information, PowerPoints, links, links to the equity training and everything like that for you to submit. And so we will connect that during check-ins.
And I
Thanks for
will
coming.
add all those important deadlines and questions on the dashboard, and Kimberly will include that in her email follow-up after this meeting.
Yep.
Thank you all.
All right, thanks for attending.
Bye, everybody.